my internet working. That's why. So it's good. We're good now.
Awesome.
All right. Welcome everybody. It looks like we thank you, Marina, for putting that up. That got my agenda right here as well. So first off, we will call the meeting to order. Looks like I'm gonna look at so I got Scott here. Great. Okay, and then I got looks like we have all people present. And we'll start from there. I think next is consideration of items not appearing on the posted agenda. Does anybody have any?
I would just like to make a note. I believe on the non-timed items for we have listed on there discussion of vacant Middle Creek project committee seat. That should be taken off since we will be discussing that on item 3.2. So I just wanted to make that note.
Okay.
And there was one thing that I was thinking about. I don't know if it fits within the agenda items that are already there, but just to kind of bring back a discussion in case that there's a choice of action or choice of direction by the committee on what to do with situation that we've been dealing with over the past month, which is the feed of trust with Robinson Rancheria. Not sure if we wanted to at least, I don't know if it fits within any other category on the agenda, but I think that all of the committee members need to be up to date with what's going on, what efforts are being made, and possibly if there's any direction. That way we're not just acting on our own, which we kind of did based on a reaction to what was needed to be done.
So I think maybe on, we could put that on the Army Corps update. Yeah.
Yeah, I was suggesting that. That's intimately involved with the Army Corps, so that's a good place to put it.
Okay. Okay. So, would you like to? Should we motion that, or is we just that just can be on the update when we go?
I think it fit. If it fits, it fits.
Okay. All right. It looks like we have that. We'll leave that there. And is there anything else on item 2 that needs to be addressed or we wanted to add? Or all right, moving on to item 3, board action, approval of the minutes for June 6, 2022. Has everyone got a chance to look at the minutes?
So I move to approve the meeting minutes as proposed.
And I second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
And I would just real quick, I would like to thank Kelly Reese, our secretary, who has been doing a phenomenal job of taking the minutes. She's still onboarding with the county, and she has picked up very quickly on all things that she's been tasked with. So thank you, Kelly, for doing a diligent job.
Okay. All right, so that covers the minutes. Next is appoint vacant Middle Creek Project Committee seats, and that I don't know if I see Mary Jo on.
She's here with us.
Okay. So as you see on July 26th, Bruno had worked to bring this item to the board, and the application that we received was from Mary Jo Velasquez, and she was approved by the Board of Supervisors to be appointed. And so don't know if there's anyone that wants to discuss or anything of that nature, but from there, I think what we would do here is just appoint Mary Jo Velasquez.
And I don't know if we need to appoint. I guess that's one of my questions is I think the board's power is the only power needed. I think we, in my opinion, this is just a welcome Mary Jo. Okay. So I don't know if we need to take action or not, but I guess if we take action, at least it covers us.
No, I think unless there's the bylaws that specifies what we need to do, I don't think, yeah. All right. So Mary Jo, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
All right. Next would be project area parcel acquisition. And so with that, I will give the floor to Marina.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I just highlighted a key a few key parcels that we are working and moving forward with. I did receive the parcel tracker from our consultants on Friday. And basically some key parcels that I would like to highlight is, again, Chandler, Willing, working on getting the papers, acquisition papers with that parcel owner. Narvaez DWR is reviewing the appraisal report. I should be hearing back from DWR this week. So any of the below appraisals that I will be sharing that DWR is reviewing, I should be getting those back, fingers crossed, this week. Sealy, they are in the process of signing their acquisition documents. They are just working on some internal transfer of names, etc. So we should be getting that ready to go before the board in the next month or so, I anticipate. Rec is another willing seller. Again, they are correcting title issues before signing. So I should be receiving those documents in my hands from our consultants in the next month or so. Khan, again, is a non-willing seller. The other non-willing sellers that we are still working on is we at the county level are sending out a letter to those non-willing sellers, working with DWR to discuss next steps that we can do in terms of non-willing sellers. But again, just getting that in writing, confirmation from these folks. And again, making additional efforts to have boots on the ground and have ideally face-to-face conversation with these folks. So taking that off the plate of our consultants and working on a more personable level with these non-willing sellers so they can talk to us at the county, address any concerns that they may have, and just get that final confirmation that they're non-willing. Although our funds right now are for willing sellers, if folks are outlining that they are non-willing, we are not pushing them to the side immediately. I want to make additional efforts, as we've outlined, to have conversations with them and hopefully get them back on the willing sellers train. But again, taking that task more so off of the plate of our consultants so they can focus on the acquisition process, and then putting that on our plate here at the county. It has been difficult since we don't have a right-of-way agent. But good news on that is we do have our extra help right-of-way agent assigned directly to this Middle Creek project. That position is being flown right now. Hopefully we will get some good candidates and get that position filled in the next month. So if anyone knows anyone who is interested in doing right-of-way specifically for this project, unfortunately, they will work directly under me, but I don't think I'm that hard to work with. But other people may say otherwise. That's going to be a big help, and especially as we're getting these non-willing sellers and having more face-to-face conversations, that position is going to really help elevate that task and make sure that we can complete that. State Chow, they are willing pending DWR's approval. Those parcels, there are a few of them under the State Chow, but again, they're very willing. They have been very communicative with us and our consultants, and we're just waiting for DWR's approval for those purchase agreements that have gone to the state for approval. Those are taking just a little bit longer since those properties do include relocations for a few renters that they have on their property. So our consultants are working hard on finding relocation properties. So that property is as a priority for us, just to make sure that we can do the actual acquisition and the relocations before right now the proposed deadline. So those are a few of the highlights that I want to share. Our parcel tracker has not changed since last month. We are changing it, but Daniela is out on vacation right now. So when she gets back this week, she will be updating that. With that being said, I see Supervisor Sabatier, you have a few questions or comments.
Well, you said a few, but I have one specific. Is this the last relocation? I know that we thought we were potentially done, but then we found out that we needed to do more. Is this our last one?
I don't want to say this is our last one. I believe we have one or two others. We're still looking at those survey lines that we have. So.
Okay, and when you say the survey lines, that also means the new up-to-date 100-year flood levels, which may cross the line for having to do relocations for others.
Yeah, and then with that, the reason why we are still examining those is because the grant very specifically outlines of, depending on where that line falls, how much of that property we can acquire, whether it be a full acquisition or parcel acquisition. And some of those have gotten tricky based off of the new survey. So again, it takes a lot of communication with the state, with the surveyor, consultants, and the parcel owner. So.
Okay. And because of the line being changed, I know that there's a lot more work when you have to do a partial.
Mm-hmm.
Does it help to just say, let's move forward with getting the full parcels, or is that to the detriment of the project? I know that we're limited on funds and things like that, but just kind of curious if we're making all this extra work for maybe parcels, but then we have this 100-year line that may change. Does it slow us down by looking at all that rather than just saying get the whole property and then we'll figure it out later?
It depends per DWR's approval and of course the parcel owner's approval, right? So some folks, you know, they don't want to sell their entire property if they don't have to. And then in terms of DWR, yeah, we can acquire the entire property if that's easier, but they may not fund us for the rest of the property depending on what percentage of the actual appraisal in the survey line falls. So it's difficult and it's case by case. I know that wasn't the answer that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I would have thought DWR would have been okay with the whole purchase, because I thought parcels only came into play after we started asking further questions. So I thought that DWR would have been on board for the full acquisition rather than just forcing us to do parcel acquisitions. But anyways, I was just questioning that. And as far as DWR reviewing the appraisal report for Narvaez and things like that, do you have I don't know if you have further data or information to provide, but how are we doing with getting those appraisals submitted to them, and how many are in the works, how many are still pending submission, things like that?
Yeah, so the properties that you see here are the ones that are still pending when it says DWR's review and approval. So for example, Seychow, that is one parcel owner, but there's a few parcels and appraisals that they are reviewing depending on reload. So again, I should be hearing back from the state. I'm going to follow up with them today. They told me that they will be reaching out to us by the end of the week with those approvals. Fingers crossed they remain approvals, but they have to get them. Our project manager isn't the one that actually does the approval. It's the real estate office down in Southern California. So she has to update that office. Again, another chain of command. So I should be hearing back from the remainder of the appraisals that are being reviewed from DWR that we have sent them by the end of this week.
Mary Jo?
So you said this list are the only ones that are still pending? Because the list that you sent had a few more that
Yes.
were at DWR. Are
Yes.
those?
So let me pull up. This is from, can you guys see everyone if I move this over?
Nope.
Okay. That would have been really awkward because I'm sharing my screen. I didn't want you guys to see everyone on here. So here is, and I just got an updated list again from this morning from our consultants. So DWR is reviewing the list right here. And then also, so we have Seychow's.
When you say the list right here, you mean the ones that we're seeing on your presentation?
That is correct. Yeah. The Seychow's, yeah, the Seychow's, which include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 APNs. And
That's important to say.
Yeah.
That makes that whole, yeah, that expands that a whole lot.
yep, with at least 3 relocations for that.
That's
So
quite,
there's also
quite
Coker
for that.
and Freeze Mendoza.
So
Oh, okay.
Freeze Mendoza, they had already approved.
So DWR has approved that one.
Yes.
And then so what's the status of it?
So let me pull this up. So we offered it, and then on 6/17 we offered the appraisal to them, and on 7/29 we're pending a response from owner regarding county's offer. So it's in their hands right now. And then we have Coker. We mailed the offer package on 6/17 and on 7/29 pending response from owner regarding our offer.
Is there a timeline for when you get back to them if you haven't heard?
No, so that's our consultants. They called the property owners every other day if they don't hear anything as they're pending the offer.
Love it.
And what was, I didn't quite get what you said about Chandler, the first one on your list on the screen.
Chandler is
They're willing.
their willing seller right now.
Right, but according to the table, they were sent, DWR got the appraisal on March 9th. And so DWR hasn't done anything with it?
No, so the owner is agreeable to proceed with the offer, but right now what we are doing is our consultants are working with them. They have a well house that is outside of the survey line, so they are interested in doing an easement. And that will be negotiations between the county and that property owner. So we are moving forward with them. They are willing sellers, but based off of the new survey line, the survey line showed that the well house was outside of the technical scope. So those are conversations that our consultants, we are having with the owner through the consultants.
Complication.
Right.
This is where all the moving pieces come to be.
I have some other questions, not about these properties. Is it possible that you could let me share my screen?
Yes, I will stop sharing now.
Wait, I'm not seeing it.
It should be at the bottom. You'll see a share screen.
Oh, no, I'm not seeing what I want to share.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to sift through those.
Okay. There it is. Okay, thank you so much for putting the map on the website with the property. So I went through a couple of things. First off, Mr. Khan, I have a friend of Dr. Khan. It's these two properties that he's unwilling, so this top one needs a red line around it. So I put in purple the ones that DWR had the paperwork on March 9th, and then in yellow, the May offers. But can you see these little blue lightning bolts?
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't on the table you sent. And I assume some of them are the partials, but I'm wondering, are they all ones that need to be partials, or what are the other ones? So basically, I just want to know what they are, why they aren't on the list.
On the list that I shared?
Yeah, on the list that was in the agenda.
Yeah, so I'll have to look at the map, what we have right now, to see what those actual APNs are and compare them to my parcel tracker that our consultants give us. Some of the parcels that I have not shared are tribal parcels right now, which again, those are different dialogue that we're having. So some of those are not on this actual list that I'm sharing.
Can you tell me which ones are tribal?
The bottom right, there's three of them. Those three right there, yeah.
Okay. It's like, this is a tiny little one here.
Well, there's also the two that are up at the top where we met with the Habamitzel tribe. They have some too up here, don't they? Towards the left.
Oh, I didn't know about that. So there's two, you're talking to two different tribes then?
Well,
Not in that area. Up top is where the other one is, where the blue.
Right, but
yeah,
conversations are going on with them. I assume.
right.
And what about this tiny little square one right by the road?
Do you have an APN for that off the top of your head, Mary Jo? I'm pulling up the map.
Let me go to the
Is
county.
that 004-01513?
I'm looking at the yeah, 1513. It looks like it's got a house on it. So,
I'm looking at my list. I apologize, I don't have the APNs memorized.
Why not?
I know, right?
Because I mean, to me, it looks, and maybe the house isn't there anymore, but it looks like it has a house, which would make it.
Is that the property that's in front of the like hill or behind the hill from the road?
Doesn't look like there's a hill.
It looks like it's right on, very close to the road.
I think the one next to it, it says need help 00415. That one's behind that hill that I'm talking about.
That was going to be my next question.
And I don't know if it's still in the situation with your next question, but from what I remember, that one was in tax default a while back. I don't know if that's come clear yet, but I remember that one being a tax.
Is that the Vetsmedian?
Is it 004 toward the right, up a little bit, right there, where that is. I don't know if that's the one, but I know there was one in that area.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
So that one I believe is a Vetsmedian. It's not in tax default anymore, and we are in conversations with the
Okay.
parcel owner.
So it was in, it just got, okay, good.
And
Okay.
it's the bigger one. It's not the small one.
Yeah.
And then there were two that they couldn't reach. These two that the monument said they couldn't get in. I guess this one and this one, the three orange ones look like they couldn't reach them, or then there was the one that's being rented and they wanted you to, Whitfield, I think it's this one, that they wanted you to work with the owner of the property.
Yep. So those are the ones that we at the county, that's the, as I've shared previously, anytime that the consultants can't get a hold of anyone, especially if they've made repeated efforts, which they usually do, they notify me right away. And that's where we at the county make those additional efforts to contact those folks. So that's where it's really crucial that we get the right away agent assistant on board, because that's what Celia would do, is she would go out there. So right now myself is going out there and getting a hold of those folks, making additional efforts, getting proper mailing addresses, sending letters, and trying to make those face-to-face contacts as well.
So there's still works in progress.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I am not taking anyone off the non-willing sellers list until I get that final confirmation. I'm not a willing seller at this time.
Okay.
And I misspoke, Mary Jo. All four on the bottom with the lightning bolts are owned by Robinson Rancheria. I thought that it was only three because there's only three that are being submitted for fee to trust. But the fourth one at the south end is also tribal.
So these two also aren't on the list. Are these lot line adjustment ones? I'm trying to figure out where the lot line adjustment ones are. I assumed it was these down here just because of how big they are.
I think what we need is, when do you know, Marina, when the 100-year flood will be absolutely 100% complete, so we can maybe superimpose it on top of this map to really see how it impacts the project?
I'm getting those surveys are done. There's a few more that they need to do the ground truthing based off of, just because there is a lot of discrepancies for a few of them that were pretty big. So we're getting more boots on the ground confirmation, but that's what I'm having the consultants work on now, is getting that survey into a GIS format so I can overlay it with the property, that the parcels that we have now and the property boundary, because that's where I need to send that to DWR so we can have these discussions for the ones that have major discrepancies in terms of the survey line was different than what we've had as a project boundary.
Thank you.
Does that cover, oh, thank you, Mary Jo. That covers everything on your list? Okay.
At this point.
All right.
Sorry.
No worries. Is there anyone else that has a comment on project area parcel acquisition.
Okay.
So, I'll open it up to the public if there's anyone that has a comment. If not, we'll move on to, let's see, item 5, Bloody Island.
I'd like to pause real quick before we move forward.
Okay.
We had talked about a timeline for when all appraisals would have been submitted to the state. What is our status when it comes to overall, and what is are we looking at extending that date? I think we talked about by September or something like that, if I remember correctly, that everything would be submitted over to the state. That gives them enough time to review it and tell us yes or no, and then it gives us the 6 months we need to try to get everything accomplished, because I believe our deadline is June 2023, if I'm correct.
Yep.
So just kind of wanted to check in. What's your feelings on where we are and what that timeline looks like?
Yeah, so we are on time on our end. We are actually ahead of schedule in terms of getting the appraisals into the state for DWR for review. Now, the difficult part is waiting for them to respond. That's why our consultants have been working very hard on getting those appraisals into the state prior. So the majority of the appraisals we got in last month, in hopes that we can get a response from the state by September. So we're still now, the big waiting game is just waiting for the state. And again, that's where it comes to me of calling Nancy every other day, asking for a status update, and hopefully pestering her enough to expedite those as quickly as possible. So we're on schedule for that deadline that we put on
But
ourselves.
realistically, if you have to do lot line adjustments, those aren't fast.
Exactly. Same with relocations.
And one other thing, exactly what does it mean by work done? That the owner has accepted the offer? Is that the point at which you say work is done? Because there's a work done and then funding request done, deadlines are different. I'm trying to just figure out.
Yeah, so for folks not familiar, Mary Jo is referring to the agreement that we have with the state. There are 2 deadlines that they put on us, one being work completed and one's being funds requested by. So work done means complete acquisition, and that is different for each parcel. Acquisition for some parcels could just mean acquisition of ag land or vacant land, which is a lot easier. But also work done includes any relocations that need to take place and any demolitions. So Daniela provides us updates during our meetings, and she has been working hard in terms of the demolitions that have been taking place. So right now we are working on our agreements and the process of getting demos for the properties that have vacant buildings. So all the demos of those properties, any wells that need to be dissolved, that includes work being done. So not only does it include acquisition, but any actual maintenance or demolition for that property is included in work being done deadline. And then funds requested by, again, whether it be, we have to do an invoice after the fact or billing after the fact, that's what they mean by the deadline of funds requested by. So we have to submit the formal request to DWR by that deadline. 2 different deadlines, they usually have a lag in between both. The funds are usually at the latter end, depending on the work that needs to be completed.
Very clear, thank you.
And
Go ahead, Harry.
And the 2 deadlines, the first one for the work done was June 30th, 2023, and the deadline for funds requested by was?
I think it was the end of December.
Yeah, the end of December.
In end of calendar 2023.
Yep. So again, we've already gotten 1 extension for our grant. We should have already been expired by now, but DWR granted us another extension. And again, I am making another request to get an additional extension just because of COVID delays and delays on DWR's end in terms of getting responses to us, reviewing appraisals, now with relocations and the resurveys. Again, different obstacles and hurdles. I'm not quite sure of the possibility and the likelihood of that extension. From my understanding, the second extension request may be a little bit more difficult because of sunsetting of funds, where these funds are coming from. But I'm hoping that if there's a way, if any, that maybe we can request the funds and then somehow set those funds aside for us to successfully acquire these parcels in some sort of format. So I'm getting creative with it and trying to work very collaboratively with DWR, and they're definitely open to ideas. They want us to use these funds. They want this project to succeed since they have a lot of investment in it. But we might have to get creative in terms of how we utilize the remaining funds.
So are you keeping Cecilia Aguilar-Curry appraised of progress? Seems to me, since she got the money, she would be a good one to have on our side for an additional extension.
She's the one, yeah, she initially helped with the first one, so I'm pretty sure it's about that time since now, Marina, since you're working on that, I think I'll reach out, and if you want to help with that, Bruno, we can too, but I'll make sure to reach out to Ferrari, is that his name, Ferraro?
John Ferrero, yeah.
Yeah, we'll reach out to him to make sure, just to let him know the progress, where we've come, and see what, what it looks like on that end. I'm glad you brought that up, Mary Jo.
No, and then the quarterlies have been submitted over to all of our representatives to keep them apprised of what's going on. And so let's keep that going. That way they should be reading and at least looking at the summary on top to see what's going on. But yeah, I would suggest that we accomplish our goal of getting all of the appraisals in. That way, when we do ask for an extension, if we do ask for an extension, that the ball's in their court, and that's why we're asking for that extension, not because the ball's in our court.
Mm-hmm. And I know that Assemblywoman, they were very helpful when we requested our first extension. So they've definitely been in the loop, and we did provide a good background of why we were requesting that extension. So they're aware of the workings, and I'm hoping that with this second extension, I'm hoping that we can work it out between DWR and ourselves before we have to request assistance from our friends at Legislative, just to keep things as civil and easy and smooth sailing as possible.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments before I move on to item 5?
Nope.
Okay. Bloody Island, is there any next steps that were not, I don't.
Hey, EJ, I think the only comment I had on Bloody Island was that, that event affected a lot of the people, of our local people, and I'm talking about Lake County and Mendocino County Pomo tribes, and there's many documentation to show the impact of the Mendocino tribes also, that their ancestors were there, and they're survivors of that also.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Tomasz. Any Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, what's the status on communication with the owners and potential appraisals or offers?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to borrow some of Supervisor Crandall's time to go out and make a little visit to Miss Whitfield, who has the majority of that property, in the next few weeks, so we can get that face-to-face discussion going on and make progress with that.
She doesn't own both though, right?
That is correct.
And so what's the status for the other?
I'll have to check with our consultants. I know they were in the process of getting a hold of them the end of last week. They haven't told me that they haven't been able to get a hold of them since their last efforts.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be helpful, Marina, if I go with staff, because when I contacted her initially, like 2 years ago, she said, have the county reach out to me. And I'm like, well, I am. She goes, okay, we'll make it in writing. So I was like, okay. And I think it's just some of that. It was also during COVID. She's also used to be me being the baseball coach. And so we'll get it figured out. Hopefully I'm willing to go. You just let me know a date and time. We'll get over there and see what we can get.
So nothing in writing was given to her?
There was, I think, a few years ago to request, but I don't think anything's come of it back then. Yeah, I know that the staff had written something out and sent it to her. I remember seeing something Scott and Marina had done. So
I was wondering if we knew the name of the owner of the rest of the property.
It's on my list, Dr. Lyons. I just don't have it on the top of my head, off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and so any other comments on this? And I just wanted to also highlight just to, I guess, expound on something that Tamaj had mentioned. The reason I'm expounding on it is because in the Malden books, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the Malden books. It's online. There's even more a description as to specific indigenous natives that lived around the lake who have commented on their involvement or their family being linked to the events that took place. So I don't know if anyone's got a chance. I'm only highlighting this for everyone to have the opportunity to read the Malden books or certain areas. It's pretty categorized really well, and so you can get to it. It's also written from the aspect of a person that is a settler, so it's not like it comes from the Native American perspective. It comes from I think it's Henry Malden's perspective, but at the same time, it's a good piece of history. It might be able to help in some instances. I know in others I've been looking at it for, so just highlighting because that will give you some idea as to some history on that. But sorry to digress off, but just wanted to highlight that. Okay, if there's nothing else on item 5, move on to item 6, California Department of Water Resources update and correspondence with DWR.
Yeah, again, I will be, fingers crossed, hearing back from DWR by the end of the week. I'm going to follow up with Nancy today in hopes that I can get those responses sooner than later. But conversations are still going good, and we should have more quarterly reports that we are tasked with writing up for our reporting to the supervisors by the end of the week. We have DWR that has to review the appraisals. They let us know of any edits or questions they have. We make those modifications. We send them an actual quarterly report and then a big invoicing package that has all the material and documents. So we'll be sending that out to them Wednesday, and then I'll be following up with the supervisors to provide those quarterly reports so we can send to our friends at Legislative and Army Corps and who else we need to send it to. But that's all I have for that.
Okay, any questions? All right, and let's see, next item is item 7, project area property maintenance, updates and next steps with project area property maintenance.
Yeah, so you can see this is similar to what we had last meeting. So Daniela Cazares is out, but she is still working very hard on doing cleanups of the property area. We haven't had any major dumps or spills in that area since our last meeting. We do have a few game cameras installed throughout the property area. Of course, I will not disclose where those locations are, but we're testing it out. And then just making sure that we can get good quality footage in those areas that we have them installed, but they're not, and that they're also not superly easy identified of where these cameras are. So once we get those placements, I will update the group, but we are looking at installing seven cameras. We have 2 installed testers out right now in those areas. So working on the proper documents to do the demo for our Torrance Vigil property, and then the possibly 7 properties with monument contract. We're looking at possibly grouping those out later. So once we get, instead of just waiting for each property to be acquired, right now our only main demo that we have to do is Torrance Vigil. I don't want to wait on doing that. I'd rather get that done sooner and then try out or see how that process goes, since this will be our first official demo with this grant that we are currently using. And then as we move forward with other demos, hopefully we can group them up just to save time and money and get a consultant on board. And of course, we follow all of the county purchasing codes for that process of doing the demos. So that's what I have for that.
All right, any questions? Supervisor Sabatier? Oh, I see, it's a thumbs up, got it.
It's a thumb, it's not a hand.
Okay, let's see here. All right, looks like next we'll move on to Army Corps, and what I'll do is I'll share my screen so I can give an update of what's taken place so far, if that's okay. Sound
Yep.
good? All right.
Take it away.
Okay. There it is.
Man, it's muggy.
It is. Especially over in your area. I was over there earlier, so. So anyhow, so what took place with Army Corps recently was we had to reach out to them. There was submittal for a fee to trust application for Robinson Rancheria, and most of the areas in their it's all their ancestral land that's contiguous amongst their current trust lands. Some of it was on the side of the highway that are in the project area, so immediately brought concerns to the county. County was worried because there was potentially a thought that it would stall the project, so immediately set a meeting on the 29th with Robinson. So we met with them initially via Zoom, and I went in present and met with them as well to talk about some thoughts and ideas on what would take place. Then there was a letter for comment. Of course, every time there's a fee to trust application, the letter for comment comes to the board and any other agency that's local to have comment amongst that. And so that discussion took place on the 6th. Following that, set a meeting with, I think it was a little later in the month, a couple of weeks after that, we set a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and Robinson Rancheria staff and county staff. And the events that took place are basically here. So we discussed the meeting, discussed dilemma where we needed to see if the Army Corps of Engineers and the Bureau of Indian Affairs for further guidance as to the county in the Robinson's tribes potential conflict with the fee to trust application. So we discussed the project. We talked about an extension. We talked about the extension that took place and how imperative it was, and how we were meeting a lot of timelines, funding mechanisms that are in place for the momentum that we've had, of course. Let's see, the county is under the understanding that all lands need to be in fee status of the project area for us to move forward. And I know that also that was one of the things the tribe had asked for, is documentation specifying that. I know it's been stated, but they would like that. And that was one of the questions that came out of the 29th meeting. And so the history and concern that the fee to trust application there was a worry by the county that it would halt, and that we would need to get that clarified. The tribe had stated that they support the project and will continue to do so. However, their long process of acquiring land contiguous to the tribe has been ongoing, and that they were at the 11th hour, and any adjustments would interrupt the process. That's where they stated they would like to see the verbiage of fee status, and would like to see any MOU agreements or potential for agreements in writing to better understand rather than the verbal statements made. Army Corps had suggested a couple solutions. They suggested a waiver that is possible. However, they stated it might be a very long, arduous process that involves higher approval from secretarial authority. Partnership is possible, but would need to discuss with legal team, and that's where it kind of sits right now. And they're going to send the information in writing to the tribe so that they have the information about fee status being necessary for the tribe to move, or the project to move forward. At the time, the fee to trust application had 50 more days of process. What that meant was like 10 more days at that time for comment, and then another 30 days, I think, were for review on that. So the BIA had given a basic timeline on how they conduct or move forward with their side of the application and the possible solutions. And so County of Lake and Robinson is concerned that it should not be an issue because the land is in trust. Considering the Army Corps is a federal entity, there should be a likely path forward for both entities to continue forward, and see if there's an opportunity in the past or somewhere else, maybe it's presented itself before. So Army Corps is going to discuss with their legal partnership. They need to consult with the legal, and then come back with their findings, and also look at the waiver and then a potential easement. Since then, I'm going to go up and show that Dylan Van Dyne, who we were contacting, along with Melissa Weimiller, sent an email about the maps, and I think those were sent to him. Those were sent to him because he received them. And then so I followed up the next week and asked about what was going on. And then he stated they're basically looking into the request and they'll get back with the project update. And then I told him when the date of this meeting, and then his last email was informed that they're in touch with the division for waiver applicability and their project partnership in the form of Tribe being a co-sponsor and providing lands only in relation to core policy regarding the FEDA Trust acquisition. Melissa informed she has done the same with core National Tribal Liaison staff for guidance. This action is in process, and he will check back with the team next week for additional updates to inform when they once they arise. And so then I just told him basically we would be reporting that. And so that's where we're at for now. I didn't know if anyone else wanted to elaborate. Supervisor Sabatier, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that you've covered it pretty well. Definitely was not something on our radar when it popped up on, I think it was like the 26th or the 25th. That we received a letter stating that this was being proposed to the BIA. I'm glad we were able to come together and meet as often as we did. And I think that the Board of Supervisors were put in a hard spot in order to submit the letter that they did in reaction to the proposal done by Robinson Rancheria, in the sense that this project has such a long-term impact, and without a 100% assurity from the Army Corps that there are avenues for us to move forward. It just, our concerns are not alleviated until further notice.
There also was another highlight that Harry had mentioned, and I did include that. It just was not in the ream that I just showed you, about the old idea of the ring levy. So I know that I mentioned that. I didn't hear anything back from Dylan on it. Maybe it's something when we get an update, I'll ask, hey, any update on the ring levy as well, or something like that. So just wanted to ensure, Harry, that you knew that I did pass forward that information because you had made a priority to state it. So I see Mary Jo, your hand is up.
Yeah, are these properties that were going to be the last time in the ring levy, or are these those new purchases that they made? How long have they owned this property, I guess is the question.
I think they've owned it for quite some time, but I'm not sure exactly if, I know that when, and I'll just disclose this now, when I was the chair, we were working on a FEDA Trust application when I was with the tribe from like 2006, and it got knocked back, got held up. And so we initiated another FEDA Trust application for the 790 degrees that are right behind the rancheria. Wasn't included. The properties that are in the Middle Creek project weren't on that when I was the chair. However, when I left, they have a new leadership, things changed. So I know that from that point, I didn't think that.
So these are properties that they've held for a long time, not the ones they just purchased. Where are those? I thought they purchased some properties that were within the project area.
Maybe we'll pull up the map possibly so we could show it.
I know that we mentioned those 4 with the lightning bolts that were at the bottom, but I don't know that they're newly purchased. I think we've always.
They can't be the ones that were just purchased a year or 2 ago, because he was working on it in 2006, right?
Not with those properties. The properties there's properties behind Robinson Rancheria on the I would say the northern side of the highway. Behind the rancheria on that side, there's 790 acres that they've been working on covers all the way down to Pile Road. But there was a couple of encumbrances I remember during that time frame that held it back, and that's the history of it. So that's why.
You never worked on a project, any properties within the project area?
Before, no, there was none that were in question. So
these could be the ones they just bought.
No, I don't think so. But then again,
I think it would take a lot longer if they bought properties, and Tamaj would know better than any of us, I think. But if they bought properties within a year ago, I don't think it would be in front of the BIA right now.
Okay, so maybe that's the other ones that with the lightning bolts that
could be
a little north of the 4 we're talking about that were also not on the list.
And this is just an assumption, but I know that across from the gas station, there's a greenhouse. And then behind the greenhouse, there's 2 parcels back there. I think it's that plus those 2 behind there is what I think. And I could be wrong. It's just, I just don't have the map in front of me. And I apologize for not putting it up. But
I would say the only new property I'm aware of
There we
is if you go down a little bit to where I think it's 201-1001.
Okay.
That's the new property that was purchased more recently.
Oh, okay.
All the other properties that surround it have been long-standing.
Okay.
And just for clarification, Tamaj, the properties that are being requested for fee to trust are 021-08, 021-15, and 022-08.
Yes.
Okay. So I suspect the other one is coming.
I don't think it would be as of now because it's it needs to be contiguous, and it's not contiguous as of now to an actual
Right. No, that's
trust
why I said
land.
coming, if they're successful with these.
Right. Well, and just one thing I know is any tribe that exists has, anytime that they have trust land, they're always going to do their best to put contiguous land into trust because it's their ancestral land. So I know that, but I didn't know that these three would be. I know they were always just kind of like across the highway. Didn't yeah, I don't know, but that's all I know.
And north of that, north of these properties, is that where the ring levy was proposed?
Yes. See where 004, 021, 16 is? Right in front of that, around the area where the casino is, the ring levy was proposed there before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what these,
The property in
ring-
blue.
Go ahead, Terry.
I'm sorry, Mary Jo. Around the ring levy, were those lands held in trust, or were they fee lands?
The land that's you see how it's checkered basically?
Right.
Right. So right across the casino, those two parcels right there are in trust.
Okay.
So across, so where the gas station would be, and then across from the casino is in trust.
Thank you.
And who owns the property in blue that's west of the ring levy location that's not for sale?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Marina, do you know who's at 004-2175?
Right. Let me pull up my. What was the APN again?
The 004-02175, that little blue patch.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think is that 7.5 or 2.5?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's 7.5.
No, it looks like it too.
Could be.
Yeah.
So
Hanston.
yeah, so that one is for sale. Mary Jo, it's on our list. But since it's a red line, it would not be a willing seller, and it is.
One that Monument had that was an unwilling seller.
I want to say that was Hanston, and they've
Yeah,
been
that's-
non-willing sellers since I've started my time with the county.
Yep.
Right.
I want to thank everybody for their patience with these questions about the geography, but it really is important to us. The coalition spent some time on Sunday looking at this map very carefully, and it's one of the things that really is curious for us is where is everybody, what it looks like geographically. So thank you for your patience.
Yes.
Hello,
Generated a list of questions.
I had some comments on the fee to trust. I guess it was when it first came to the supervisors in the comment period.
Go ahead, Tamaj.
Yeah, could you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I heard comments. I looked at the video. I heard comments that tribe this process would possibly slow down or halt the project. I didn't hear any kind of anything to back that up other than a statement. What I heard was that everybody has met, Army Corps, BIA, supervisors, and everybody seemed to think there was a way forward. I also heard the legal team kind of repeat this from the county. And I've also known that, in at least Robinson, we've been a part of this for the inception. And, in general, the tribes here have been dealing with all these long-term impacts as the original people of this land. And we haven't done any really actions to harm our ecosystem here. In fact, our mission is to protect these lands for future generations. We didn't support Rodman Slough even happening, or 80% of our wetlands being taken away. And so we will always be here. We definitely support the project. And then as far as like the timeline, as far as I did hear 30 days was a quick turnaround. We face that all the time with our AB 52 notifications. But, back when I started working with Robinson 2.5 years ago, we're at a state where we're still trying to have negotiations with Army Corps and Caltrans. And so at that time, I had suggested a project manager or officer to try to get things going faster. So I know, the communications haven't been as strong as they need to be to have certain type of answers. I know it's better now. I know these things are happening now. But I also don't think having bi-monthly meetings also helps anybody in this process when we also say we're not ready. When we've stated that, in the meeting, we can't comment on a 30-day because we don't have enough information. Well, why are we having bi-monthly meetings? And then the other part that I just, really don't understand was, the comment about the Upper Lake tribe. They do have land in there, and each tribal nation, this goal is to put their land in protection of their future generations. And so that's just, if you understand tribal nations, that's always their goal. It shouldn't be a surprise, but to state that one tribe is doing it and another isn't healthy for tribal relations or anybody, especially if you don't have the background data to understand what their reasonings are, and to use it in a political sense to pit a tribe against each other. I just don't think is very healthy. And so those were some of the comments that I had heard. You guys could clarify if I'm wrong, but those are things that I heard, and I just wanted to make sure that we move forward together in a good way. And thank you.
Thank you, Tamaj. And I don't think any comments like that were made from the board in that aspect. It's just, I think it's the fact that the Upper Lake tribe had knowledge of the project, whereas I remember talking with the tribal council at Robinson, and they had stated that this has been passed to them. Chairman Cromwell had stated that, so he wasn't really familiar with it as much as the Upper Lake tribe was, and so I think that could have been the communication breakdown, but I don't know. But either way, I am really glad that I was able to we were able to get meetings with the tribe and kind of attack this head on. Well, not attack it head on, but get things moving. So we had a dialogue. So, yeah. Supervisor Sabatier?
And I'll respond to that because I made those comments. We communicated with the stakeholders that have property within the project scope which means that we sat down with Abemetol and we sat down with Robinson Rancheria, and somehow, and I said it during the meeting, we obviously failed to communicate appropriately to Robinson, because Abemetol repeated what we said, which was, this has the potential to kill the project if it goes into trust. And that's what we had been told by the Army Corps from the very beginning. And that was the process that we were following to ensure that the project would go to completion. At this point in time, there's nothing that says that the project can continue to completion until we get more concrete understanding of what's possible over at the Army Corps. I hope, and I'm crossing my fingers, that they will provide that. But the intention was not to put any tribe versus tribe. It was, we had the same opportunities for communication, and obviously we were able to successfully communicate with one and not successfully communicate with ours. And I put that back on us if you listen to the entirety of the message that I said, because it puts us in a kind of on our heels, where all of a sudden we're not sure what the status of this project will be. It really depends on the Army Corps, and I even stated it as well. My problem is not with any specific tribe. My problem is I don't trust the Army Corps, because they're going to do something that they're not here. They don't live here, and so they may not recognize the impacts of their decisions and just how much it's going to impact all of us. Because as you stated, you still support the project. There's no issues with the project. So we're all on the same page, but the Army Corps, if they see a hiccup, they may just tell us that it's not possible to move forward. So keeping my fingers crossed, but none of those things were meant to be politically charged, just stating the processes that we've gone through and the discussions that we've had, and where we could have done better in communicating.
Mary, oh, go ahead, Tomasz.
No, I was just, thank you, Bruno. You know, again, I appreciate you guys' honesty and always being direct. I'm the same way. You know, it's just, you know, being in the environmental field and seeing the condition of the lake and seeing what's happening, you know, all around, and all the actions being taken, and how the tribes have really not been a part of what's happening. And then also just the good work that we're doing to help save the lake, and you know, and then just, you know, there is also a lack of understanding of how tribal governments work and their mission statements. Like, we understand kind of how the county and what they're trying to accomplish. We also understand, you know, some of the federal entities, what they're trying to do, but it shouldn't be a surprise when the tribes are doing these type of actions, because this is what we've always tried to do. And that's just part of, you know, working with, you know, being part of the tribal nations is to try to protect our lands, because they haven't been protected, you know, and you know, look at our environment, and that's just what it is, you know. So we've mismanaged our land, and we're sitting here trying to protect it. That's all.
Mary Jo?
I thought that email chain that you shared, Eddie, didn't that have options?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is. And that's what we're waiting on, of course, is the legal team to discuss. And then also, and that's about the co-management. You know.
Definite options available. Those are potential options that legal people have to sign off on. Okay.
I think one of the promising things that I'll highlight, and I know it's a little jumping ahead on the agenda, but with project funding, and the only reason I'll go to that, mention that, is because the $750,000 that's been requested from Thompson's, I don't know what to call it. I know the feeling though, because we have our discretionary funds and we can't call it certain things. So whatever you want to call that funding
project.
He called it an earmark.
Right. So we'll call it that.
We can call it an earmark.
But it's sitting in the House right now. And so for me, I don't see the House or Army Corps or BIA halting anything if there's going to be funding appropriated from Congress. To me, that's promising. And I think when we get a clarification from Dylan, that can also be included, is where we're at with our funding situation. And that gives us also the opportunity to ask Thompson to look into it, since he's funding it. You know, so just a lot of things that kind of help on that end, I would say. So I don't know if anyone else shares the same feeling, but that's how I feel. I just don't see anybody from Congress knocking anything back, or Army Corps saying, oh, we're not gonna, because we're getting this funding from Congress to do so. So any other comments on, I'll go back to what we were just discussing on the Army Corps update. What I can do is continue to send it to everyone, or I'll send it to staff and go from there. And then I just sometimes get concerned about Brown Act stuff. So just in case, at least we'll have those updates. And then I think with that, no other questions or comments.
Hopefully we get a response soon.
And so then next is PG&E updates. I don't have any, I know for sure.
No, and I would just like to note that I do know how to count, I promise. But there's formatting issues on the agenda, so
I did it too.
Jump to 10. And I think that's been in the last few agendas, so I promise I'll fix it before next agenda. Just need to make that public comment that I know how to count. I pinky promise.
You're just skipping 9 because it's my favorite number.
Oh, yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I don't hear any updates on PG&E, so we'll move back to legislative, or we'll move to legislative on forward. And so I see we have something here, and it just I don't know. Do you want to explain that, Marina? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that was just a picture that we had the last time.
Okay.
An update that we have in terms of legislative, and I don't know if Supervisor Spatier or Crandall, you want to elaborate a little bit on, but I did receive a message from our CAO that on 7/20, Congressman Thompson's representative reached out to us, and that the funding that they allocated for the Middle Creek, it did go before the House that day. And that is HR 8294, which is a 6-bill appropriation package that includes the $750,000 for the Middle Creek flood damage restoration reduction project. So it did go before the House on 7/20. And I don't have any other updates on that.
We're just waiting for if they did or not, or whatever,
Yeah.
from here forward. Yeah. So, and that's what is promising to me about the whole situation with the fee to trust solution, if you will. I figure that they'll make something move on their end if there's a funding source from Congress on that level. Hopefully, at least it's not good to assume. What do they say about that sometimes? So anyhow, with that, if there's not any questions or concerns or comments from anybody or the public, I'll move on to project funding, which is basically covered again, but that was basically the same update with legislative was the funding source of it, unless anybody else has anything else to add. Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, for our next meeting, Marina, if you can just give us like a up-to-date status of what our funds look like from the state, just to see where we are with the property acquisition like we always do, but also where we are financially with the funds available for purchasing the rest.
Yep, and I'll be able to provide the most accurate update for that since we have just submitted our most recent invoice to DWR.
Okay. Next, Caltrans. I don't have an update on Caltrans. So if there's no comments, we'll move on to public expression. And so what I'll do is open the floor to anybody that has a comment. So.
Chat item.
What's that? Oh, I'm
Corolla
sorry.
had a chat item, maybe.
Oh, Corolla?
No, I just wanted to point it out that Robinson currently has trust property already in the project area. So yeah, just so it's already an avenue we will be traveling.
I see. Thank you for that. There's no other public expression. We'll move on to non-timed items. Let's see, vacant Middle Creek. That's just from last time, so we can take that off, right?
Yeah.
And so the next meeting will be scheduled for October 3rd, 2021, 10:30 via Zoom. Is there any other comments or questions, concerns, or anything else anyone else would like to state? All right, looks like we've covered everything on the agenda. Thank you, everybody, again for attending. Thank you, Marina and staff, for all your work on preparing. We understand that that's arduous, but I feel really good about some of the progression, and we'll keep our foot on the pedal the best we can, and make sure I keep in contact with Dylan. Thank you, Harry, for your help with him as well. I know he wasn't responding to me until I asked you, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey. So I don't know, whatever it is, I'm just glad that you have a connection with him, because it's helped.